Welcome to Combat Chit Chat. I am your host, the Sandman, and today I will be giving my reaction to the Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford fight. So we have a lot to speak about on this fight. Um, wow, wow. I am truly amazed by what we've witnessed here. We have literally witnessed history made. Um, this is one of the greatest boxing history made and one of the biggest showdown in the last 10 years, I would argue. Um, Canelo Alvarez versus Crawford, you know, in Las Vegas, you got Turkey Al-Sheikh, we got Dana White from the UFC, all promoting this fight in front of a crowd over 70,000, and you literally have two of the best fighters in the world go at it after a very long time. Granted, we did have earlier, we had Usyk and Fury, we had Bivol and Bitterbiv, and finally, boxing are going back to the old days where the best are fighting the best. And I'm truly amazed. I'm very impressed by what Turkey Al-Sheikh and what Dana White managed to pull off. And yeah, let's get right into the fight. So, going into this fight with Crawford and Canelo, I think the main notion here was that real boxing fans, like true boxing fans, not the casuals that watch boxing once a year or once every other year when a really big name is fighting, the likes of Canelo, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, these type of big stars, when they're fighting, that's when everyone's tuning in. So a lot of people don't know who Crawford is. Even now, they still don't know who Crawford is. Um, and I think the notion was where people felt like Crawford has the skills to beat anyone in the world, pound for pound. He's definitely the more skilled boxer, right? People did feel like he's a little bit more skilled. Even the hardcore, even the Canelo fanboys, they did acknowledge Crawford's skill set. I did see a lot of debates online, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, YouTube, wherever, all social media platforms, where they did say Crawford is faster. Of course, he's the lighter guy. He weighs less. He's quicker, and he's got the better footwork and the better head movement. I think we can all simultaneously we can agree on that. There's no dispute there. I think the concern was, will Terence be able to withstand Canelo's power? That was the issue, right? That was the concern because he's literally going up. Crawford fought. He's fought at 135, 135 pounds. He's fought at 140 pounds. He's fought at 147 pounds. He's fought, I think, once at 154 pounds. Completely skipped 160 pounds and went all the way up to 168 pounds. So that's his playground. Canelo is the heavier guy, and Canelo is super durable, right? So by no means did anyone think, even with all the skills that Crawford has, does he have the firepower to finish Canelo? I mean, Canelo's chin is legendary. He's proved that throughout his whole career. He's Canelo fought Triple G 3 times, and Triple G couldn't finish Canelo. And Triple G was pound for pound one of the heaviest handed guys in the world in his prime, and he couldn't finish Canelo. So going into this fight, everyone was thinking, okay, if Crawford wins, he wins via decision. If Canelo wins, he wins via KO or TKO. And literally, I told everyone that Canelo's power is overrated. I generally feel like Canelo's power is overrated. If you go look back throughout his career, where all the steroid allegations were lingering around, and Canelo was literally getting grilled at every media press conference. All of a sudden, Canelo's not getting as many knockouts as he was. Um, Canelo doesn't have that one. He doesn't have that one punch knockout power. That that touch of death. He doesn't. He doesn't. He really doesn't. He finishes people with a barrage of punches and combinations. And when he was taking steroids, let's just assume for a minute he was taking steroids, right? He was getting a lot of knockouts. Not anymore. That's not the case anymore. So I did say that I don't see Canelo catching Crawford clean on the chin. Um, if Canelo was to catch Crawford, it would be more so body shots and yeah, and leading up to this fight, up until the press conference, when I saw Crawford at the weigh-ins, I was like, oh my God, Crawford is not the smaller guy. He was lean. Crawford was lean at 168. He had low body fat. Not like absolutely ripped to the gills, but he was lean. He was still lean. His abs were there and everything. He was not chubby, you know. And he did not look like the smaller guy. He just looked a little bit more narrow. He's taller. He looked a little bit more narrow, but he was still lean. So that was my notion going into the fight, you know. And when I saw him at the press conference weigh-ins, I was like, you know what? This is a 50-50 fight. Crawford has the skills to defeat Canelo. Um, it's it's about the cardio as well because the conditioning is very important in this fight because Canelo will push him back. So now let's get into the fight, right? So round one starts. Uh, Crawford wins the fight, by the way, 115 to 113, majority decision, right? And this was another concern as well. There was It was his crowd. We thought the judges may be on his side. It's a huge Mexican crowd, so Canelo essentially is the face of boxing. Maybe he may be able to sway the judges his way, like he did in the first Triple G fight. And we all know Canelo lost that first Triple G fight. So going in, the first round begins. Not much is happening. They're feeling each other out, right? And Bud Canelo, I believe, landed two of the cleaner punches. I think Canelo landed three punches, with two of them a little bit quite impactful. With Bud, I think he landed only one punch. I would have given the first round to Canelo, right? The first round, I would say, okay, that's a Canelo round. From round two to round six, right? From round two to round six, it was swing rounds, you know? It was swing rounds. And swing rounds, for those of you who aren't familiar with boxing terminology, swing rounds are like rounds that could have gone to either men. There wasn't a clear, outstanding moment in those rounds, you know? So, with the judges scoring and get, yeah. So, I don't know how the first few rounds went. Um, but if you want to give the first few rounds to Canelo, I don't mind it. Round five was probably a Canelo round as well. Round two, three, and four, I don't know. I really don't. There wasn't. They were just swing rounds. So up until round four, I'm like, oh, it seems like Bud is struggling here. He's struggling with the distance. He's struggling with timing of Canelo. Canelo was throwing the left hook to the body, and Crawford goes into the biggest fight of his life in southpaw. Right, this was his tactical approach. Um, and he said in the press conference, I wanted to fight orthodox. Bear in mind, Crawford is right-handed. He goes into this fight southpaw, and oh my God, second stage of the fight, Crawford showed the world why he is the number one pound for pound, the most skilled boxer in the world, arguably alongside with Usyk as well, Alexander Usyk. But for the sake of this video, let's just say it's Crawford. He has showed that he is a master, elite boxer. There's levels to this, and Crawford is above levels. His timing, his rhythm change, his tempo change, his speed. He knows when to slow down. He knows when to speed it up. He knows when to attack. He knows when to put full force into his punch, when to put it at mid-level, when to just do touch, 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 and then pop. He knows how to manipulate Canelo's body. If you saw his footwork the whole time, so the whole idea of this going into this fight at Southpaw, the idea behind this was the fact that he will negate Canelo's jab. That was the whole idea of it. Although we know Canelo is not a huge jabber, but he does use the jab. Canelo does use the jab. He does use it to set up his right hand, his overhand, etc. And from round 1 to round 11, Canelo had only thrown 7 jabs. 7 jabs. That was Canelo's, I believe, I'm not sure what the stats are, but I believe that was Canelo's all-time lowest in a full stretch 12-round fight. In Canelo's career of 12-round fights, he threw 7 jabs. This might be the lowest. Why? It's because he couldn't. He really couldn't. The whole time, Bud's lead foot, in this case, because he was fighting southpaw, his right foot was on the outside of Canelo's lead foot, which is Canelo's left foot. Now, what happens is, at this point, where if Bud's lead foot is outside of Canelo's lead foot, Canelo, when he's thrown his jab, he can't land the jab because the whole time, because his opposite stance, Bud's got his hand there, and Canelo can't throw his power hand, which is his backhand, in this case his right hand, because Bud is not only his southpaw, but he's on the outside position. So what Bud is doing is he's turning like this every time. He's pivoting and he's circling out, and his pivot, he's forcing Canelo to turn with him and putting him out of balance. And then pat. Bud might throw a quick combo and counter Canelo on the way out, way in. And he was doing a lot of catch and shoot. So catch and shoot in boxing, for those of you who aren't aware, is when they're in, like, for example, I'll give you an example. When they're in opposite stance, right, and Canelo's throwing something, like a jab or something, Bud is literally taking it like this on his guard, on his shield, and then returning it back with the same hand. He was doing that at the earlier stage. And then after, he made more adjustments, and now Bud was now countering. He was catching and shooting. He was catching with his left hand. Sorry, in this case, his right hand, because he was fighting southpaw. He was catching with his right hand, with his lead hand, and then countering with his left. An absolute masterclass. His IQ, Bud's IQ is beyond and above. Nothing like I have ever seen. Nothing like I have ever seen. From from the second stage of the fight until the very end, Bud has shown he put on an absolute masterclass. And just to make this clear, this wasn't a one-sided beating by any means. It was not a one-sided beating. Like it was competitive because the first half of the fight, like I mentioned earlier, there were many swing rounds, you know. But it was once Bud really he caught Canelo, he caught onto Canelo's timing. He he caught onto his distance. His distance management started becoming easier. Canelo started getting more frustrated. That's when, in the later rounds, Bud started to catch Canelo more. In round, I think Bud's best moments, where he really, really stood out in terms of aggression, was round 9 and round 12. At this point, both of those moments in those rounds, I got out of my seat and I was like, oh my God, is Terence Bud Crawford about to finish the great Canelo Alvarez? Is he actually about to do this? That didn't happen. Like I said, you need to call out Deontay Wilder to take out Canelo because that chin is just legendary. Do you know what I mean? But um, he put on an absolute masterclass. Terence Bud Crawford officially became 3 times undisputed champion, and that too against Canelo Alvarez. And what a moment in history of boxing! What a moment! Um, I'm seeing a lot of people online criticize Canelo, and you know what? There's no shame. There's literally no shame in losing to the best fighter in the world. And many years ago, Canelo fought a man who is considered to be the greatest of all time, Mr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. At that time, Canelo was inexperienced. He was 23. Um, you know, and today he fights Bud at the age of 35. And the same thing happened again. Given in the Floyd fight, Canelo was dominated a lot worse. That was a one-sided beatdown for sure, for sure. Floyd absolutely outclassed him from bell to bell, from pillar to post, from round one all the way to round 12. That wasn't the case in this fight, but this is a better version of Canelo. Um, as for Canelo, um, when I reflect on his career in the last 5 years, this isn't the best Canelo. I mean, what I'm trying to say is he's not in his prime, but he's not washed either, meaning his physicality and his skill set has not deteriorated by a lot, you know? Anyone that says that is is either just a diehard loyal fan of Canelo and they're just coping and making excuses for him, or they're just trying to downplay Bud's achievements. Like, look, I believe Terence Bud Crawford beats any version of Canelo, whether it's in 2025 or whether it was in 2020 or whether it's in 2016. Any version of Canelo, Bud's got his number. He's just the better fighter. Look, I just want to point something out. Canelo has historically struggled with guys with good footwork. Go look back at Canelo's fight with Caleb Plant. Go look at that fight. I had Plant winning that fight until he wasn't winning anymore because he got clipped and Canelo finished him. Plant historically is known to have a glass chin. He gets finished pretty easily. But up until that point, Caleb Plant was dancing circles around Canelo. He was struggling to catch Plant until he eventually caught him and finished the fight. But on the scorecards, he was losing. The same thing was happening with Billy Joe Saunders. A lot of you might not agree, but I had Billy Joe Saunders winning that fight up until he got caught as well. Once again, once again, that's another fighter with amazing footwork that was giving Canelo a lot of problems. Um, the Amir Khan fight, a lot of people want to say, oh, Canelo was just looking for that one big right overhand. And yes, he was. He was. And also, Khan went up in weight to fight Canelo. Amir Khan went up in weight, just like how Crawford did to fight Canelo. And a man who is notoriously known to have the weakest chin in boxing history, Canelo knew it doesn't matter if I struggle with him for the first few rounds. Eventually, I will find that chin. I will put him out. Amir Khan, that was a six round. That fight ended in the sixth round where Canelo caught him. The first four rounds, Amir was winning handedly, and he was dancing circles around Canelo. Canelo was struggling with the footwork and the speed, and this is why, reflecting on Canelo's career, right? Going into this fight, I was watching those old fights again, and I was like, and when I saw Bud in the press conference, I'm like, you know what? If anyone's gonna beat Canelo at 168, Crawford is the man to do it. He's the man to do it. If I look, I'm not one of those fans that just um ride on a hype train or ride on the wave or just agree with just because everyone else is saying it. Now I just want to jump on the train. I underestimated Crawford back a couple of years ago when he was going into the fight with Errol Spence. Granted, I didn't favor Spence in that fight. I just thought it's a 50-50 fight. I didn't know who will win that fight because up until that fight, right? In reality, who did Bud really fight? Right? That was the question going into that fight. That was the knock on his career. That was the criticism. But the same applies for Errol Spence. Who did he fight going into that Bud Crawford fight? Who did Errol Spence fight? So time after time, time after time, time after time, Crawford proves us all wrong and becomes an undisputed champion for the third time at the age of 37, but he's literally 2 weeks away from his 38th birthday. So let's just say he's 38. At the age of 38, he beats Canelo Alvarez that two-handedly for half of the fight, especially from the second half of the fight. And when both fighters left the fight, when they left the ring, Canelo had some damage on the right side of his face. Bud looked like he just came out from a sparring match. No damage, no nothing. Wow, I'm blown away. And it could not have happened to a better fighter, to a better man. He is truly a gentleman in and outside of the ring. And yeah, yeah. The Canelo camp did seem a little bit too confident going into that fight. You know, the criticism was like Canelo in the last few years has had some BS cherry picking moment fights, and if you think about it, right, Canelo at one point should have fought Benavidez, you know, and I believe Benavidez was his mandatory as well. Canelo wormed his way out of that one. Benavidez went up in weight. Benavidez now fights at 175, and he literally cherry picked Terence Crawford, thinking that he's just a smaller, weaker man, so I'll fight him. I'll outpower him, and yeah. Now, um, now it comes to the question: how good is Bud? Right now, there's a huge debate amongst the boxing community. Is Bud the greatest of all time? He is literally in real time as we speak being compared to Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd is globally regarded as the greatest of all time. Mm. And this is interesting, you know. When I look back at both of their careers, it's Bud has been a little bit unlucky. He's literally turning 38 in 2 weeks, and at the latter stage of his career, has had the biggest fight of his career. Right? Floyd had already beaten legends by within his late 20s. Right? Look, okay, let me restart. There's two ways to look at this. If we're talking about pure accomplishments of how much has a fighter done, who they fought, how many, the level of competition, the level of superstars on their resume, the big names, the big money fights, Crawford doesn't even come close. Let's be real. His literally Crawford's three biggest names now on his resume are Amir Khan. We forgot about that one, but Terence Crawford also fought Amir Khan. Um, Errol Spence, and now Canelo Alvarez. Floyd has beaten at least 15, maybe more than 15 superstars in the boxing community. Forget even Floyd, even Manny Pacquiao. Even Manny Pacquiao has accomplished a lot more than Bud throughout his career. But Manny Pacquiao is an 8 division world champion. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather have beaten everyone and anyone in their in th- during their time as champions and contenders. They've literally beaten everyone up until they fought each other and Floyd got the better of Pacquiao. Up until that point, Floyd more or less has beaten everyone Pacquiao has more or less beaten almost everyone Floyd fought. They've had many common opponents. They fought all their contemporaries. They fought all their contemporaries. Some may argue that Floyd, picked and chose the timing when his contemporaries were no longer in their prime, or when they were vulnerable with the rehydration clause, etc., etc., etc. But point is, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao have got the strongest case in terms of resume. Who they fought a who's who. They've literally fought everyone. There was literally no stones unturned. But if we're going to compare Floyd and Terence Bud Crawford in terms of skill for skill, just skills, nothing else. Forget the fame, forget the money, forget the big names, forget the fancy cars and all the press conferences and anything that happens outside of the ring. Just talking about pure skill set. That is a conversation to be had. Yeah. That is a debate that should take place in every press, like in every community, in every boxing community WhatsApp groups, in every Snapchat groups, in every group chat, in every podcast, in every forum. This is now, that is a fair comparison. Who is more skilled? I would say Crawford is definitely more skilled than Pacquiao. Yeah, he's more skilled than Pacquiao. His defense is definitely better than Pacquiao's. His IQ is better than Pacquiao's. Um, this is a really good one. Bud Crawford has definitely more. Arguably you can say he has more flair than Mayweather. You know, he can be more aggressive when he needs to be. Um, Floyd, I think Floyd has better defense. You know, throughout their career, I think Bud did get rocked really badly. I mean, Floyd did once against Shane Mosley, but Bud got really badly hurt. And you can catch Bud here and there, you know? You can catch him here and there. With Floyd, it's almost impossible. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands, you know? It's like fighting a ninja, you know? But they're both so skilled. They are both so skilled. What I'll do is, if you guys are interested, I will do a long breakdown and a tribute of Floyd Mayweather's skill set and Terence Bud Crawford's skill sets and do a comparison video. If you're interested in that, I'm happy to do that, and that's a conversation we can have. But yeah, as for Crawford, where does he go from here? Honestly, I think he should retire. 38 years old, just beating Canelo Alvarez. I think it's time for him to. The best thing a fighter can do is have the biggest win in his career at the end of his career, win a good, convincing win, and then just call it quits, hang up the gloves. But regardless of whatever Crawford does, even if he fights again, I'll definitely be tuning in. I'm a fan. I like to watch him fight, and yes, yeah, that'll be interesting. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, share, and I will see you at the next episode.